everybody, this is HD.
And this is Paying User.
And we're back, man. It's time for the semifinals of the IPL. This is one of the semifinals. I know the other semifinals are actually being casted by Total Biscuit, who is also a fellow caster, very good guy. A lot of other casters in the IPL as well. Make sure you guys go check them out throughout this entire tournament. Now, this is the semifinals, and we are casting it as a best of 5. Once again, first games are going up on our YouTube channels. The rest of the games, in fact, all the games can be found on IGN.com/IPL. Make sure you guys go out there and support us. Go to the website, shout us out, Paying User in HD. We're co-casting here for you guys entertainment, and we're excited because this is IdrA versus Select.
That it is. We have EGldra versus Dignitas Select on xelnaga Caverns, and I'm super excited about this matchup. Two great players, both of which are completely on top of their game right now, especially IdrA. And IdrA, I know he was struggling for a while with his Zerg versus Protoss, but throughout this tournament, his Zerg versus Protoss has looked immaculate. He's really cleaned it up. Right. He's changed some things around, and he is looking great. And he's been breezing through this tournament, taking out some really strong opponents. And
You're not joking, man. He's been taking out players left and right. I mean, every game we've casted of IdrA, I think we casted a couple of him so far. He seriously just decimated his opponent. It took him to school.
He's been doing a real good job, and I don't think he's dropped a series yet. So looks like Select is going to try and change that here. Select has great TVZ now. Wasn't always his strongest matchup before, and it looks like he's going to open with his patented 2 racks. I really like that on xelnaga. There's such a short run distance between the 2 ramps. He can really get into the natural early, but IdrA dropping a pool and gas before his expansion, so playing very safe.
This is something I've noticed about IdrA lately. Before in the beta, and especially in the early days of StarCraft 2, really the frontier, the pioneer of 14 hatching, and kind of like the bold icon. Everyone would look up to him. Hey, he can 14 hatch, so why can't I? But now I've noticed a lot of times IdrA has been going for early gas, early pull, and getting his hatchery down around 19, 20, 21 supply. And what this does, Paying Users, it lets you get early Zerglings out, 4 Zerglings, earlier speed. It allows you to deal with early bunker rushes, which I think Select is going to try to do here. So I think IdrA should be pretty well prepared. A nice little blockade of the drone before it could get in.
Yeah, Select throwing that depot up right in the drone's face.
You shall not pass.
And that drone is going to sneak out of here with just 7 HP left, but he will live to scout again another day. And Select, it looks like he's not going to go in for that bunker. Scouts the natural, sees that the hatch is not going up. Going to go ahead and pull back, send his SCVs and his Marines back towards... Actually, no, it looks like they're going to pass the Zerglings. Zerglings going towards the right xelnaga, Marines and SCVs going towards the left xelnaga. And he does see them with the drone, but I don't know if he's going to be ready for this.
We have a little bit of a kind of circle, the big chasm in the middle of xelnaga Caverns here. Both forces trying to decide where they want to go. And I think IdrA is going to go ahead and go straight towards the natural of Select. And Select has opened up with a command center after his 2 barracks. This is very standard. Interestingly, though, he's throwing his command center outside at the natural, so it's going to be a little more exposed, and Zerglings and Marines will encounter each other right here, and IdrA realizing he just doesn't have enough Zerglings to deal with those and will run away.
Yeah, IdrA actually getting out 8 lings early on in the game. Really worried about some sort of Marine push here at the natural, but I think he is more than safe at this point, and it's actually Select who looks like the one that's a little bit worried at this point. Gonna go ahead and get his bunker up at the natural, probably gonna get another bunker just to make sure that his command center is covered. And keep in mind, on xelnaga Caverns, your natural is so wide open that there are various Zerg all-ins that with banelings, roaches, things like that, and it's so hard to cover the entire area or wall off with barracks that it makes those all-ins so much stronger. So you need to invest extra money in defense on this map, especially.
I absolutely agree, Paying User. And the other thing here is Select decided to throw his command center down on the floor, on the ground below at the natural. So what that means is he has to get these early defensive structures up earlier than if he had built the command center inside his main and then floated it out. Now, the other kind of plus side of this is his base, his natural, will be secure right away. So he's really got a kind of good semblance of control right at the front of his door, and he can easily maneuver his troops out there quickly. Now he has 3 bunkers going up, and this really shows that he's super cautious right now, and he really doesn't want to get busted. But I think his natural will be well protected, and he has plenty of defenses for that. And also note that Select has 2 gases, and he's throwing up factory.
Yeah, probably going to see some Blue Flame Hellions out of Select here and try and get some of that map control back. You obviously have to concede map control early on to Zerglings. It's very difficult to maintain control of the Xel'Nagas early on against Zerg, and it looks like IdrA is going for a relatively quick layer here, and he is probably... IdrA's one of those players that hasn't really adopted fully to the new Infestor style that a lot of foreigner and North American Zergs have been using. And when I say foreigner, I obviously mean non-Korean players have been using this early Infestor Ling with Roaches, and using that to deal with the Marines and crush any kind of Terran pushes. But IdrA, one of those players that still loves to rely on the Mutas, the Muta-Ling, Baneling composition. He's still very good with it, and I mean, he was always one of the better players with that style, and I think it's still really working for him, so he hasn't made that change yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to note that, because so many Zerg players these days have been using Infestors, and nowadays they're not, I mean, at least for IdrA, he's not really using the Infestor all that much. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Select here. Inside the main, he has 2 factories. He has Infernal Pre-Igniter coming, so it looks like he's going to transition into Blue Flame Hellions, but also in the back has an Armory coming up. So he may actually be going quickly into Thors, which will be able to deal with Mutas nicely. And in fact, IdrA has gone straight into Spire. Very quick Spire here, so he's going to be looking to take the skies with early Mutas, like you said, King User.
Yeah, and I think this could work out very well for IdrA. One thing that he needs to hope for is that Select does not get those early Thors out, because 1 to 2 Thors covering your main and or your natural with a couple Marines can...
It just shuts down Muta Harass.
Yeah, absolutely. It completely shuts down Muta Harass, and if you add a couple turrets into the mix with that, it's going to make it very difficult for any kind of Muta ball to really do some effective harassment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when I have Mutalisk and I fly into a Terran's base and they have Thors and turrets, that's it. That's the end of my Mutalisk harass. Now, hey, look at this. The Hellions actually do not have the Blue Flame upgrade, and it looks like it may have been canceled on that production tab. So, interestingly, Select here has decided to cancel his Blue Flame Hellions, but at the same time, I don't even think Hellions would have been that effective, because we have, look at this beautiful building placement by IdrA. He's built a Spire, Baneling's Nest, Evolution Chamber, all behind his main, with the Spine Crawler at the Geyser. This makes it very hard for Hellions in the first place to do any damage whatsoever.
Yeah, he has a good anti-Hellion SimCity right there, and Select also using his Raxes to SimCity a little bit at the natural. Yeah, just gonna make any kind of all-in that much less effective. Has his 2 tanks in the back, well protected by those bunkers. Right. So Select really has a nice little city going, nice little fortress at his natural, and it looks like the Mutas are going to be coming in to harass a little bit here, but a Zergling does find those Hellions at the Xel'Naga, and it looks like IdrA is going to try and take those out, going to pick off a few Hellions here, but that's really not that big of a deal. Select only losing 2 Hellions, going to send those back to his natural around the back, and they will actually, no, they're just going to hang out there over by the 3rd for a little bit.
I don't even think it really matters that much, because it looks like Select has decided to completely stop the Mutalisk, or the Hellion harass, and I don't even think he's going to commit to Hellions, since he doesn't have Blue Flame on the way. Now, these Mutalisks are inside the main, picking off some Marines, but the Thor coming back from the natural, and like we've talked about that before, man, the Thor just puts an end to Mutalisk harass. It's pretty brutal, and now these Mutalisks are going to have to run away and find another place to attack.
The great thing about just having a couple Thors, and a lot of players, including the Koreans, they'll just forego the Thors altogether, and they'll just use Marines and tanks only. And I think just having a few Thors makes it so much easier to zone out the Mutalisks out of specific areas that you do not want them in. Obviously, your natural, your main, your production facilities, and that added range from the Thors just makes it so much easier, as opposed to just purely using Marines or just purely using turrets.
Right, absolutely. Mutalisk now actually picking off those leftover Hellions. Select not really going to care too much about that. Now, look at this nice little building placement we have by Select. He actually doesn't even bother to finish his supply depot right now, because he has plenty of supply capacity, but just builds it just in case, so Banelings or what have you can't run in. Now he's going to complete it as he starts to rack up his supply count, and he's going to need that capacity in the near future. And Select is also grabbing the gold, and this is the most critical part of this map in Terran versus Zerg. IdrA is going to want to put a stop to this no matter what, and his Mutalisk already on the dot, coming in here, trying to pick off the orbital, but as it's morphing into a planetary with turrets coming down, it's going to be very hard to do. But Zergling's coming in here. IdrA might think about taking it out right now.
And man, these Banelings are doing a ton of damage. He was able to flank the Marines and the Thors out in front. segregated them from the tanks that were in the back at the natural, and he might be able to kill this gold CC, and that would be absolutely huge for IdrA right now. Looks like he's got some Baneling coming in, but they're not going for the CC. Gonna finish that with the Mutas, saves the Banelings. I love that from IdrA.
Really nice there. Just use the Banelings to scare the repairing SCVs away. Those SCVs were coming out there. They wanted to repair that planetary, but the Banelings were basically a scare tactic. That was terrorism right there. And the SCV said, no, we're running back home. Screw that. And so the planetary dies. And IdrA is looking really good here. And we're talking about this so many times, Pain User, killing off that planetary at the gold. Now IdrA has serious map control.
Yeah, absolutely. 75 to 49 harvesters. He has a Mutaflock that is approaching levels of ridiculousness. Select is not going to be able to do anything to hold this off. And he's just getting that critical mass, killing SCVs in the main, forcing Select. Select is just discombobulated right now. He's all over the place. He's running Marines and Thors here and there, pulling SCVs.
He can't even afford to stim his Marines to run back there because, I mean, he just doesn't have dropships to heal them.
And interestingly enough, as you mentioned that Select those Marines, I don't think Select has Combat Shield yet, and he's just starting stim packs.
Oh, wow.
And we are 15 minutes into this game, so that's very interesting.
Well, you know, he went for triple factory with Thor, and he was originally going with Hellions. I don't even think he ever had time to get all these barracks. He never even had time to get a tech lab on his barracks. So these are upgrades that are just starting now. Really, really far behind in terms of upgrades, man.
Yeah, that seems like a very late transition into bio to me. You can go bio and mech at the same time, but and wow, this Mutapack from IdrA is just doing work right now, killing supply depots, picking off turrets where he can, and I love how IdrA, not getting too greedy, just continues to keep the Mutaflock alive, not taking too many hits from those Thors.
Yeah.
Just doing damage where he can, when he can.
Yeah, and he's not really allowing these Mutalisks to clump up. He's using that magic box very nicely, which means that when the Thor shoots, it's only going to damage 2 or 3 Mutas rather than damaging a whole clump, and that is going to make these Mutalisks so much more resilient to those Thors. Now, it looks like Select is going to try to grab the gold again. He's got a ton of SCVs and mules coming in. Unfortunately, IdrA had no Banelings, no scare tactics this time around. Select making that slow push over. Mutalisk coming in, picking off the SCV, building the turret, and a couple of mules and SCVs as well. Wow, that's so many Mutalisks. How much damage it can do is unbelievable.
And IdrA doing a little bit of a run by here into the natural, killing a ton of Select's SCVs, and Select is already so behind on the income tab. I don't know if he can afford to lose those. Down to 37 SCVs now, and Select is really hurting. He needs to make something happen here. He has to do some kind of economic damage or take out one of these hatcheries, because IdrA is just rallying to the middle of the map right now. And look at his creep spread. He's slowly encroaching on the third, and he's also coming around the right side to that Xel'Naga, and even has Overlords all over the map dropping creep, and he's also blocking Select's potential fourth with that creep.
Such nice play right here from IdrA. This huge flock of Mutalisks flying into the main as Select was trying to go to starport tech. He was actually throwing down 2 starports, presumably to get a ton of dropships out. Meanwhile, more Zerglings running right into the natural are queued on SCVs and supply depots, I guess. IdrA here is doing some serious damage to Select, and the army tab shows it all, with supply counts counting at 191 for IdrA and 119 for Select. There are so many Mutalisks there. Oh man, they just took some serious damage. IdrA allowing the Mutalisks to clump up. He just lost a pretty large pack right there, but I don't really think it matters too much.
Yeah, the great thing at this point is he can afford to be a little reckless with those Mutalisks, just forgetting about those Thors for 1 second there, eating 3 volleys and losing a ton of Mutalisks, and that just shows the power of the Thor with a few of those upgrades. Thors just absolutely shred Mutalisks, and that's one thing to note is Mutalisks are not very good in the eventual big battle, in the eventual showdown in TVZ, when those 2 huge armies do confront one another. Mutalisks are actually terrible as a combat unit. You don't want to be investing too much supply into them, but the amount of damage that they've done throughout this game really showcases why Mutas are so good in the early and the mid game.
And I think that's what Select might be banking on here. I think he's banking on the fact that IdrA has so many Mutas that if he can get some kind of sizable ball of units out, he can push out and maybe crush that Mutalisk ball. But hey, IdrA already on top of it. He's going straight to Hive, and he has 4 Broodlords morphing. Oh wow, he has a ton of Infestors as well. This kid, man, this guy is just an incredible Zerg player. And I think he's about to win this game. I honestly don't see what Select can do at this point.
I love that IdrA has been using his excess gas to get those air upgrades. He has Armor 2 coming, and I also love that he's getting Armor 2 before Weapon Suit. It's so important to get those armor upgrades, especially when you're going to be potentially dealing with Marines and Vikings. They're so good against Vikings as well, and I think that's what Select was trying to do when he was dropping that double starport. And even neural parasiting a few of the Thors here.
Oh man, Mutalisk now flying in. No fungal growth though, and like you said, those Mutalisks are not actually that strong. And whoa, IdrA here losing a significant portion of his army, but I'm surprisingly he still has all his Lings and Banelings back here.
Yeah.
I think he might have just wanted to sack his units.
IdrA trying to get a little cute there, was neural parasiting the Thors, tried to take them out of the picture, and then tried to magic box all of his mutas. But when you have, you know, that many mutas against this many Marines just absolutely shred through mutas like a hot knife through butter, and that's what you saw right there.
With +2 weapons, now they have shields, now they have stem, they have +2 weapons, and the vehicles, the mech for Select also has +2, and that really shows the Terran firepower at its finest. But I think IdrA right there might have just wanted to clear some of his Mutalisk supply as well. If he was thinking, you know, if this attack fails, at least I clear my crappy Mutalisk, which aren't that great in the late game battle, and I make room for the heavy hitting Broodlords.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, even if that was his objective, you still want to at least do a little bit of damage with your 50 supply worth of Mutalisk. You can't just throw them away like that, but it doesn't matter at this point. His income, he's banked 2.4k right now. He's keeping his gas nice and low, continually morphing those Broodlords, and I feel like once he gets enough Broodlords, he's going to be able to lay siege to the gold, and there's really not that much Select can do about it right now, although Select has managed to equalize the supplies a little bit here. He has a bit more of a firm presence on the map in the mid right now, but IdrA just slowly looming over mid with these Broodlords right now, and he is launching that endgame push.
This is like the nightmare looming across in the horizon. Those Broodlords do so much damage. Select does have 6 Vikings, so these Vikings are going to come in handy when dealing with the Broodlords, but with Corruptors coming in and Neural Parasite on the Thors, Select stays maybe numbered, and that has got to be the finishing blow. Broodlords, Lings, and Banelings combined. The might of the Swarm compels you, and I think Select here is going to lose this game. I mean, wow, Planetary actually may be able to hold on for a little bit here. Wow, this is getting really intense, but I think IdrA, if he could use these Broodlords, if he just mobilized them over this Planetary, that would almost certainly destroy it.
Yeah, and these Broodlords are going to clean up. They are definitely the icing on the cake here. Going to be able to kill off all these SCVs.
GG.
And Select calls GG. Well played by both players, but I feel like IdrA in firm control of that entire game. Never really let it go. I mean, even throwing away 50 supply worth of Mutalisks wasn't able to give Select an upper hand or the win. So
I think Select might have been waiting till he could max out his army with +3/+3 upgrades for everything and just try one big Terran death ball push. But it just never really worked because IdrA continually just harassed him, traded armies, and sent those. I mean, sending those Mutalisks in, he didn't do that much damage, but he did kill off a little bit, and he was able to clear some supply capacity for these big Broodlords. And eventually, he just took the game away, man.
Yeah,
nice played.
I mean, beyond the 2 racks and sending those few Marines out early on to pressure, Select really wasn't able to make a single offensive maneuver that entire game.
You're right. He never really did. IdrA just took control of the game the whole way through.
Yeah, absolutely.
With those early mutas. Really nicely played, and we're going to actually move on to game 2 in the IPL. This is once again the semifinals, and it is a best of 5. HD and Pain User both signing up.